Live from the Deer and Deer Hunting headquarters here in Iola, Wisconsin. Welcome to Deer Talk Now. Welcome to Wednesday. I'm Dan Schmidt along with Brad Rux. Thanks for joining us once again. Today we have what we call an open mic. Thanks everybody on Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, everybody who sent in questions. We're going to try to get to as many of them as we can today, Brad. And we're going to be talking about a little bit of everything. I didn't get to preface you on any of these questions, so some of these are going to be...
I think you're trying to trick me.
Yes, so I'm going to make you be quick on your toes today. I went high tech today. I just brought in my iPhone, and we're gonna actually read these questions right off my phone. As I mentioned on Facebook just a little while ago, anybody who asked a question, and if we answer it on air, you're going to receive a free Deer and Deer Hunting whitetail rut calendar for this year. So, but you got to make sure that you email me your address. So nice. if I list your question, if we answer it, you're going to get a calendar. Email me your mailing address, and we'll get one right out to you. Brad, let's start right away. We're going to also have today's special guest, Alan Clemens, is going to be calling us from Alabama, and Alan's going to talk about how to pack a cooler, which I didn't realize the science involved in that. But let's get to these first, and then we're going to get to Alan. Brad, here we go. First one. I'm going to give my thoughts on this first.
Okay.
And then I'm going to let you do it. This is from Walter Quick. Walter Quirk. Walter is from New Jersey, and Walter writes, this is from Facebook, Walter, so you get your rut calendar. He wants to leave New Jersey. He wants to know which would be the best state to retire to, deer hunting wise. He says he doesn't want to freeze, nor does he wish a one deer bag limit. I'm taking the easy one. I'm going to say move down by Allen in Alabama. Basically unlimited deer tags. Really nice weather. You got to wait a little bit later for really good hunting. That would be one really good place to retire for a deer hunter, I think.
You know, for me, it's I would go to Iowa. I mean, I can deal with the cold because you got clothing for it. You can shoot, if you own land, you can shoot 3 deer. If you don't own land, you can shoot 2, and you can hunt for a legitimate giant. But, that's really hard. What else do you like to do? I mean, if you like to fish a lot, I agree with you. I'm going to go down to Alabama unless you like to ice fish up here in the Midwest because the ice turns into, the water all turns into ice, so you got to like cold weather for that.
It's once you've experienced the South and hunting down there, boy, it is something that it can become addicting. Deer hunting, December, January is usually the best, but then you got really fantastic turkey hunting. And it's not just Alabama. There's Tennessee, there's Georgia, there's northern Florida. There's a lot of warm weather places that have some pretty good deer herds.
The thing about Alabama, though, is, if you really don't like cold weather, that dampness, yes, it goes through you. I'm telling you, I hunted in Alabama, and out of all the places I've hunted, one particular time, it was probably the coldest I've ever been in a dang box blind was in Alabama, and it was in January, and I didn't have the clothes. I didn't have the proper stuff, so again, you can freeze in those summers.
It's funny you mention that because I've said this story maybe on Deer Talk before. The coldest I've ever been was in Mississippi, and that was hunting with Will Primos in 1996, I believe it was, and that was 1995. That was in November. Coldest I've ever been. It's the humidity. 100% humidity is like maybe 30 degrees. I'm like, 30 degrees, that's nothing for a Wisconsin boy, 30 degrees in Mississippi in November is cold. But the other one, I would say that just because I've been there recently, the last 2 years, Wyoming is fabulous hunting. I know actually a lot of guys, when I was out there was guys from Pennsylvania and New Jersey that had retired out to Wyoming you got deer hunting, you got elk, you got antelope, you got all sorts of things. So there's a couple ideas for you, Walter. Just be sure to invite Brad and I down there when you do find your good retirement place and hook us up for some good deer hunting. Thank you, Walter, for the question. Let's go on to the next one. Brad, this is a piece of cake for you. This is a lady hunter from North Carolina, Emily. She wants to know, can I use a fawn call during the entire hunting season?
Absolutely. I mean, especially early season, it works great for antlerless deer. If you want to call in a doe and you use that fawn distress, I mean, almost any mature doe is going to come in there and check it out. But it's a great time even during the rut, and I think it's underutilized during the rut because everybody's trying to call in the bucks with the grunts or with rattling antlers. But yet a whitetail, whenever they hear a whitetail buck, especially when they're in the peak of the rut, whenever they hear another whitetail, they're going to go in there and check it out. I don't care if it's a doe call, I don't care if it's a fawn. They're definitely going to come to that call and check it out. I mean, they're just curious if there's a doe with that fawn and they want to scent check it or what they're going to do. But I don't think you can go wrong using a fawn call.
I agree with you, especially early season. That lost fawn mama call, it's a thing to see. If you can get within earshot of some mature does, you will not believe. Now you might not be able to get a shot at all of them, but you will not believe the reaction that you will elicit in a mature doe when you start wailing on that lost fawn call. It is amazing how the deer just come running out of the woodwork.
Running in to check it out.
And
Yes.
they might just come running in, and if you're bow hunting, you got to be on your toes. You might not always get a shot, but great question, Emily. Thanks for asking that, and we're going to get you out your rut calendar 2. Next one, Brad. This comes from Brandon Tate. Brandon is from Virginia. This came off of our Facebook page too. Thank you, Brandon. Brandon writes, "Hi, I was wondering when the absolute latest time to get in the woods during an evening hunt would be. He loves to hunt during the week, but he can't get out there till 3:30, 4 o'clock. I think he's talking mostly early season bow hunting. My response to that is there's really never, every area is different, and I know that's a general way of answering that question, but I think the biggest thing is getting to your stand without spooking deer. And the other thing too is once you get to your stand, as you can attest, if you're hunting a food source, you've got to stay in that stand well past dark without busting those deer out of there. Otherwise, that law of diminishing returns, you're gonna see it real fast.
Yeah, absolutely. The whitetail's going to pattern you, but I think on anybody's farm, there's a couple spots that literally, if they're not in that food plot, you could sneak in, especially if it's in a ground blind or some spot, and it might be closer to the road than what you really would like, but we have a little food plot literally right off the road that I could sneak in there, and I don't care if I have a half an hour of daylight left. I mean, if there's a half an hour left and I can get in that blind, I got a good chance of harvesting in a whitetail. It might not be a giant buck or anything, but the deer is still going to come to that food plot, and it seems like the closer they are to the roads or human activity, the later they come out to that plot. So sometimes those are great spots.
Great advice for hunting farmland areas. I would counter by saying in woodland areas, which I used to hunt a lot, especially northwoods, that's a little bit trickier. If you're trying to get way back in a big piece of timber, especially some national forest land and things like that, if you can't get out until later in the afternoon, then it's something you kind of got to make an audible and maybe hunt a different spot, because a lot of times you're going either very near or past bedding areas, and that's something that I don't want to do, especially if I'm hunting public land. I do not like to try to blaze my way into the woods, get in there late, maybe hunt for an hour, hour and a half, maybe 2 hours, and then leave. Sometimes that does more harm than good. But I agree with you on some of those areas. You can get into a place that's got a food plot or an egg field or something, and you can get into that ground blind. You're not going to mess too much up.
What's interesting in this question, if you look at it in reverse, there's a lot of beliefs on when you should get in your stand in the morning. And there's some big name hunters,
Yeah.
A Greg Miller per se, who's a great hunter and kills a lot of
John
big deer.
Eberhart.
He does not go in until it's light because he wants to be able to maneuver around the deer to get in his stands. Now, I'm totally opposite. I like getting into my stand way before the
Right.
deer are entered in there, let it all settle down. And their belief is, well, you're scenting it all up, which is true because you get a lot more human scent. And if they can sneak in there, more power to them. I'm probably not that good. I'd be busting deer left and right if I went.
Yeah, John actually, he primarily, as we know, hunts public land, and one thing he taught me that really increased my success in those kinds of situations, way early, 90 minutes before first light. And people say, man, 90 minutes before first light, why are you sitting there in the dark? Well, the one thing that John, the way he explained it, which I thought was really good, is he said, if I'm getting there 90 minutes early, I might be going through there before those deer come through. So let's say I get in there 90 minutes before first light and a buck comes through 60 minutes before first light. I can't see him, but I didn't bust him.
Yeah.
I might have busted him had I tried to go in there at 60 minutes, an hour before first light. And the way he puts it then is that deer might go about its way and might come back through there going to its bedding area, and you might catch him at 10 o'clock. 10:30, 11 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
Whereas you would have never saw the deer had you busted him on the way in.
See, that's my strategy as well. The other thing I like about that is if my neighbors come out, after I do, and they do bust some deer, more than likely those deer are going to run into mine, and now they're in front of mine, they're going to work back to that bedding area, so that's another advantage of it.
Good
That's
tips.
what I like.
Good tips. Okay, thank you, Brandon, for that question. Let's go on to the next one. We have, let's see, looks like we have 3 or 4 more here before we're going to call Al and Brad. This is up your alley. You know this better. This actually came in a while ago, and we've been holding this. This is from Camille, I'm sorry if I butchered your name, from New Jersey. In an area with soybeans, when the soybeans are cut, is it still okay to hunt that field? If yes, what would be the best time to do so?
Well, there's 2 things that I like to do with soybeans. One thing is, yeah, absolutely. If they cut that field, if you can get it in the day after or the next day, the sooner you can hunt that field right after they pick it, the better. And we've already hunted a field. Literally, the combine was going around it. We took a stand because it was going to be picked. Get out there. The minute that combine comes off that field, it seems like the dinner bell. The whitetails just gravitate towards it. But one little trick that I like to do with soybeans, especially if it's an area that you want to hunt all while, you can do a couple things. You can overseed that with brassicas right when the leaves turn yellow. If you overseed that with brassicas, those brassicas are going to sprout, the leaves fall off, it almost gives them a point to germinate. The combine can drive over them because they're small, and now you're going to have a brassica plot where you had soybeans. The other thing is, like up here where we are in the Midwest, in Wisconsin especially, they're picking those beans normally in October or late September. We don't have enough time for our brassicas to mature, but you can do the same thing with winter rye or winter wheat. Spread that stuff out, and that stuff will be, perfect height, and that'll let you hunt that same field all the way through late season.
That's some great tips. And if you want to listen to somebody like Brad. He's been doing this for well over 20 years. I mean, a lot of people would never have thought of that. You overseed that soybean field, and now you have a food plot that's going to last you well into gun season.
Yeah, and that was somebody told me about that 10 years ago. And does it work? Absolutely. I mean, it's powerful. Like I said, I use winter wheat and winter rye as the combination that I plant, but I know other people that use brassicas. So
good information. Thank you for that question, Camille. Next one here is from a local guy, Jeremy from Wisconsin. Jeremy wants to know, okay, he's got a lot of questions actually, but he wants to know about what do we recommend for scent usage, urine-based scents while hunting, scent drags with estrus, buck urine on mock scrapes, what's the best tactics? And he loves the show. Thank you, Jeremy, for asking that question. I've dabbled a little bit with scent. What I like is pretty much the old-fashioned stuff. I mean, I do use the preorbital lure on mock scrapes, which I've just started using within the past couple of years. I've gotten a lot of pictures that way, have not killed a buck over a preorbital scrape yet. I do like the urine-based scents with scent drags. I've used them successfully. I've shot deer in Illinois with them. I've shot deer up here with them. I haven't killed a booner with them, but I do get a lot of action that way. That's what I prefer. I prefer like a wildlife research center, like a
golden estrus,
something like that, on a scent drag. And when I do with the scent drag, it's just pretty easy. Is put it on a scent drag, just keeping myself as scent free as possible. I try to drag that away from my foot traffic and just circle my stand with it, get up in my stand, and I'll hang it within shooting range. That's the key, is I want to hang that drag above so the deer can't smell where I touched the drag, and then if the deer's coming in, that I could get a shot at it.
Yeah, I use a lot of urine-based scents in my scent trippers that we use, and I can tell you most of the quality products are very good. I mean, they're going to draw in bucks, but keep in mind, it's not the golden sword per se. I mean, there's going to be bucks that come across that scent and not really even pick up their head, and yet the next one could come by and literally hit that scent line and just right to your stand. It's kind of amazing to watch that.
It is. It's an individual thing with every deer.
I think it's a lot like the grunt tube. It's what frame of mind they are in that moment when they come across it, because and you could say, well, most smaller bucks or year and a half olds will come to it. No, not necessarily. Yeah. I mean, they'll cross it, And I've had large ones cross it and not pick up their heads, and I have big ones come in right down, right down that line as well. So it's a tactic I think you should employ. I mean, I think the quality products are out there, and if it helps you, more power to you. Just be careful, like you said, don't get human scent
Mixed in with it,
because it's going to spook the deer.
Yeah, last year we gave Jared Bloom here in the office. He had never killed a deer with his bow.
Good example.
Gave him some of that scent, and he went out and he shot a deer. I think first or second time using it.
Came right in.
Came right in on a rope with
yep.
his head right down, and Jared made a great shot. So it worked for him. It's worked for a lot of people, but the key is you got to keep your human scent out of there. You got to be real meticulous about that. Great question. Let's go on to the next one. Okay, my phone's acting funny here. That was from Jeremy. Next question comes from Gene H. from Indiana. Gene, thank you for writing. This came in off of Google+. Okay, Gene wants to know, he's got a lot of questions too, lots of good ones. Wants to know why do bucks have swollen necks and shoulders during the rut? That's pretty easy. He wants to know, is that testosterone, or is it just from them being more active? Mostly it's them being, it's a combination, but it's mostly them being more active.
And all the rubs that they're making.
They're making rubs. It's like I'm sitting there doing dumbbell curls with my arms, and they get big real fast.
Absolutely.
And they're losing weight.
And the amount that they're strengthening is just amazing when you think about it. Up by us, our bucks like to rub for whatever reason more than other parts across the country, I feel. And anyway, some of the trees that they're snapping off are literally an inch. And just think about that. Go out there and grab a tree that's about an inch and just try to break it with your hands. And you can't do it.
You can't even budge it. Yeah.
Or the other thing is, look at when they're fighting. When they're sparring. Just think of the pressure it takes to break that main beam. You just grab an antler once in your hands.
Or just try to smash it yourself.
And try to break it. You can't break it. So just think about the strength that's involved in that. And these deer are doing it all the time. I mean, up here, once they turn hardhorn, those things are constantly sparring, just nonstop. And now you get the rubbing into it. I mean, they're just like a weightlifter. Just like you said, they're all building up.
And plus, like I said, they're losing a lot of that fat that they built up, those fat reserves. So it's a combination of that exercise building muscle, but now they look so sleek. Their hindquarters are all sleek. There's not an ounce of fat on them, and their necks are just huge and swollen. And it's a pretty cool thing to see, but it is just amazing that the power that a mature buck has.
The other thing, when you look at the age group, when you go from a 1.5 years old, I think you notice it more because they do get bigger, and like you said, they lose a lot of weight. But if you're looking at a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old, especially even a 4-year-old this time of year, I mean, he's big.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't approve the height, and I should have brought some pictures, Tyler, if I think about it, I'll give you some, but we have a picture of a 4-year-old that we just got, and it is a big body. He looks pretty dilapidated right now because the fur's all coming out because spring's here, but that thing's got an immense neck on it already. Now, give him another 3 months of building that thing
Building up, and he's going to just look like a prize fighter when he's all done. Last question before we get to Alan. And last question, this one is actually directed towards you, Brad. This comes from Eric Vincent from Florida. Eric, thank you for writing. Eric writes, Brad Ruck's son shot a bow on a recent TV show, that was last fall, and had adjustable tension bow. What is the name of that bow? He wants to get one for his daughter this upcoming bow season. But he wants to be able to use it. He wants her to be able to use it for several years.
Yeah, the one my son was actually using was the Mission. It wasn't the Craze. It was the one before the Craze. But the Craze is the one you want to get. That thing's a great bow. It goes all the way down to, and don't quote me on here, like 19 inches to 30 inches.
Really adjustable.
So it's totally adjustable, and you can go down to into low 20 pounds all the way to 70 pounds. So literally, it's 2 little set screws that you switch on the cams, and you can move that thing any which way you want. He's still shooting that bow. My belief is, I'm going to make him shoot that bow until he's done growing. Because right now, I mean, literally, I bought him a pair of lacrosse Arrowhead boots. Got him before the season. His feet were 8s. I got him at 9s. And right now he's wearing 11s. He's wearing 11s. He's wearing my boots
already. Yeah.
So and that's what my fear is with the draw length, and that's why this bow is so good. Like last year, he started shooting. We shoot a lot starting in June, and by the time the season was going to hit, by September 1st, his draw length already looked like he was bending into it a little bit. So I gave him another ½ inch, and then it fit him better. So I think, this is definitely a bow that you can grow with, and I love it. It's a great bow. I think the other one was in the Menace, but this one is the Mission Craze. Comes in pink if you want it, camouflage, black. It's a great
But that adjusts
bow.
all the way. I mean, 30 inches, I could shoot that. You could
30 inches at 70 pounds, you can shoot it. Yeah. And I think he shot it. He was his draw length was like at 21 inches, and he was shooting 51 pounds or something like that. This year he's already, we've been shooting a little bit because he wants to shoot his turkey, and he's probably shooting it at 24 inches, and he's probably 55, 60 pounds. He's getting close. So
we have a lot of that information at deeranddeerhunting.com. Mission Archery is a Matthews Archery company. You can check them out. I believe it's missionarchery.com. Check those out online. And today, I'm just going to give you the quick special today. With the holiday coming up this weekend, all shipping orders at shopdeerhunting.com are free shipping. So you're going to want to check that out. Let's get on the phone with Alan. Alan Clemens, our managing editor. He's out of Huntsville, Alabama. I'm going to razz him about the weather they're having down there. They're a lot nicer than we're having here. But we're going to talk about how to pack a cooler, which is something that not a lot of guys think about, but there's actually a little bit of scientific tactics almost about doing it and about keeping your stuff cool. So let's get on the phone with Alan and let's see what he has to say about it.
Good morning there, rays of sunshine.
You're ready for us.
Yeah. How's it going?
You're ready. Good, good. Alan Clemens, managing editor for DDH. Welcome back to the show. I don't think we need a formal introduction, but I guess we have to do that for all the listeners who are hearing your great voice chime in here. Alabama, what is it, 70 there today?
You know what? The temperature here right now in Alabama is on that hairy edge of I'm ready to pull my hair out because it has dropped into the 50s with rain and clouds and is supposed to be in the 30s tonight,
Yes.
which is not supposed to happen in mid-April.
Well, that's awesome because then you're feeling our pain a little bit.
yeah, we got 3 inches of snow probably left on the ground, and it was 20 degrees in my truck this morning.
Oh gosh, I'm just I've always wanted to live in Montana and Wyoming, and my wife, who is far more intelligent, said you couldn't stand the winter, and she's probably right because I'm about ready to hit myself in the head with a hammer. All of our flowers are blooming, our azaleas and dogwoods, and everything looks great, and the fish are spawning, and the bluegills are moving up, and it's supposed to be 32 tonight with a freeze warning. It's terrible.
It's crazy. Well, we're sending a whole bunch of people down your way. One of the questions during the open mic session, they wanted to know, a guy from New Jersey wanted to know where he could retire, and we told him to go down to Alabama. So you're going to have a couple snowbirds coming down there to kill all your deer on you.
Man, that's fine. We'll take some Jersey boys. Tell them to bring some good food, and we'll send them on down to South Alabama toward the Gulf of Mexico, and they'll love it.
I'm sure they can do that. That's the perfect segue there, Alan, about traveling and food. And you're our foodie expert, and you're also our preservation expert as far as packing a cooler, which you told me, and I didn't really think about that. I said, I don't know, you just grab a cooler, you throw a bunch of ice in there, and you throw your food in there, and you go to your hunting camp. And you're saying, no. There's actually a system that you need to be aware of. And I said, you know what, that'd be perfect for Deer Talk, a short segment, to tell everybody, including guys like myself, who are not as well versed on this as you. So give us some pointers. What we were going to talk about is, A, packing a cooler just for your regular groceries. And then after that, B, about guys who are going out to Montana and Wyoming and places like that who have to travel quite a long distance to get home, who are going to bring home their venison. But let's talk about regular coolers first. What's your system for this?
Well, today we've got a lot of coolers now that are the roto-molded type. They're far more advanced. They have some more insulation. A lot of guys still like the models that we've used for years, the less expensive ones. The tips, the things that you can do to help keep your food colder longer work for both of them. One thing to do is keep your cooler in a cool place. Keep it in the garage if you can. Keep it in a shed. Bring it in your house if you've got room, a mud room or something in your house. Let it cool down. Don't leave it out in the sun where it gets hot. It'll warm up and it'll be hot, and you put your ice in, and immediately it starts melting. Whether you dump it in or leave it in a bag or put in frozen milk jugs. That's one thing I like to do. I'll take plastic milk jugs, fill them up about 3/4 of the way with water, freeze them. You got a good handle I clean them out real well, so then I can use that water for drinking or cleanup if I need to. Let it melt a little bit, and you've got some drinking water. They are modular, so you can put them in the cooler. You can stack stuff around them pretty easily.
Now, why do you only fill them halfway, Alan? What's the benefit there as opposed to filling them up 3/4 or almost all the way?
Well, I fill up the milk jug about 3/4, so when you freeze it, it doesn't blow the top off of it and burst.
Makes sense.
And that way the milk jug doesn't burst. You know, if you fill it up all the way to the brim and then freeze it,
you cracked it open, you just made a mess.
You crack it open, and then you got a leaking mess, and you don't have anything that you can use or drink or whatever use in your vehicle. If you're going on a long trip and all of a sudden in the middle of Kansas or something your truck overheats, then you might have to wait a little bit, but you got some water in a jug to put in your radiator if you need to or whatever. So keep your coolers cool. Go ahead and freeze anything that you need to freeze or get it cold before you put it into the cooler if you can. If you know you're going on Friday camping, or you leave next Sunday to drive out to Wyoming to go hunting, or Alabama or Wisconsin or wherever, go ahead and put all your stuff in the refrigerator somewhere and let it start getting cold. That way when you put it in the cooler with your ice, it'll already be cold. It's one thing that is pretty simple. If you go to the store and you're on the way to the beach or wherever, and you buy a bag of ice and a can of drinks and a couple of Gatorades, a 6-pack of drinks, and you throw the cold ice in there with the hot beverages on top of it, they're going to start melting that stuff immediately. So
that's a really good tip.
Get all of it cold beforehand if you can. It's the same thing. It's the same thing when you get to deer camp. You were talking about packing your venison. We'll switch gears a little bit for that. You've been at deer camp for 3 or 4 days. You killed a deer. You got it maybe hung up in the cooler. The meat's cold. If possible, maybe you've already boned it out. You've got everything boned out. You've got your meat broken down as much as you want for now and cleaned up. You got it in bags. And you have the possibility of going ahead and freezing it. Maybe you've got a freezer there in camp. Go ahead and freeze it. Try to get it to where it'll be flat or stackable, easily stackable, easy to put in the cooler where you can get it all in there, have the ice in there, close the lid, keep the lid closed. Don't keep opening the lid. You don't need to check on it. It hadn't gone anywhere. Ghosts haven't gotten in and stolen any of it or whatever. And it'll keep things colder longer.
Yeah, that's some great advice, Alan, but the one thing I wanted to ask you is we have the really nice coolers at shopdeerhunting.com. They are these Engel coolers. They are built like tanks, really nice, a little bit more expensive. Why should I opt to buy a cooler of that caliber? How is that going to help me, especially on a hunting trip or something like that?
Yeah, well, I tell you, and this again, it goes to whatever your budget, whatever your mentality of how you want to spend your money and what you believe in and products. But I can tell you, I have grown up. I'm 48 years old. The first coolers that I remember my dad having 40-something years ago when we would fish are the old red and white Igloo coolers. They work great, but I remember he was always frustrated with the hinges breaking. They've gotten better over the years. Now we have the roto-molded type coolers, the Engel style coolers. They have thicker walls, better construction. They have sealed gaskets around the lids that help seal in the cold. Yeah, they cost some more. You could go out and spend, you could go out and maybe buy 3 or 4 other coolers for what you might spend to get one Engel. But I think this one will last. I think those will last longer. They're more durable. I've had that type of cooler for a couple of years. I've carried it to Kansas. I've traveled with it to Texas, Kansas, Florida, New York. I've beat it up. I've thrown it around. I've packed stuff in it. I have driven hours, days, spent time in camps, hunting and fishing. It's still cold on the inside. I put in drinks and snacks for when I'm traveling, and I can stop and take a break, and there's my cold stuff. I could eat a sandwich if I want to at a rest stop. On the way back from Kansas last year, when we hunted out there in December, killed a nice deer. It was so cold that the meat froze in the camp after we cleaned it, so I had frozen meat in my bags ready to go, threw it in the cooler, drove back 13, 14 hours to Alabama, not a problem. It actually, my deer sat in that cooler for another 3 or 4 days here at Alabama at home, because at the time I didn't have a small freezer. I had to go buy a small freezer for my garage. I just left the meat in the cooler. So it stayed in that cooler probably 5 or 6 days, hard as a rock. I've never had a problem with them. The latches don't break, and everything is designed today on those coolers that if something does happen, you can order it and put on a new one pretty easily. So it's a good investment. It's a long-term investment.
That's the key, I think, especially for traveling out of state, and that's where I see the beauty in these things. What I really find interesting is that you can, the good point that you made there for processing venison, and this is something that I know, Brad, we did when we were down in Illinois how many years ago, but you shoot a deer, you got to get that meat cold. You do not want to skin that deer and process that deer and throw that meat in the cooler if there's any kind of ambient body temperature left in that meat, because that will spoil your meat.
Yeah.
And if you have a good quality product, you keep it in there. Like you said, the nice thing about that is you're not pressed for time. You're not getting home and it's like, I gotta finish processing this stuff because it's not staying cold in there, or it's getting all sloppy with melting ice and that kind of thing. Well, Alan, we got to cut you short. I got to get you back to work, and we got to cut the show short here. But I want to thank you for those tips, and we'll try to send some more cold weather your way so you won't have to worry about it for a while.
No. Keep it. I'm ready for spring, summer.
All right, we'll talk to you later.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Al. Great tips, Brad. Another good show. And what I want to remind everybody is you don't have to watch this right when we have it up there. You can watch any Deer Talk. We're approaching our 100th episode here pretty soon, if you can believe that. But they're all online right there at the archives at deeranddeerhunting.com. Just go on the tab, go to the archives. You can watch any show, and it's every topic. We've covered just about everything. So just be sure you watch the replays. A couple things. Got to clean up here before we leave. Coolers, we talked about them. We talked about good ones. We have them at shopdeerhunting.com. We have some of the best. They're Engel coolers. They're in shopdeerhunting.com right now. There's several options. You're going to get 10% off right now if you go there. You enter the code that Tyler's going to show you on the screen here. It's Engel10. Enter that in the checkout box when you check out. Get 10% off. And this weekend, if you order it over the Easter weekend, you're going to get free shipping. So, that's a pretty good deal right there. Free shipping plus 10% off. And also that free shipping applies at anything at shopdeerhunting.com this weekend.
Nice.
So be sure to go on and check out all the stuff that we have. Till next week, he's Brad Rux. I'm Dan Schmidt. Thanks for joining us on Deer Talk Now. We'll see you next week.